Welcome into Sideline Signal. I'm Andrew, as always, joined by my co-host Tyler. We are finally at the peak of college football with the national championship game. We have the unstoppable force of the Ohio State Buckeyes versus the immovable object of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. I'm excited to watch this. Both of these teams have had a incredible season and a wild playoff path to get them to the national championship game. We're going to get into it. We're going to break it down, talk about our keys to the game, what we think each team needs to do to be able to win. We're going to tell you our picks for the national championship, and we're also going to give you our score predictions. Without further ado, Tyler, how are you doing today?
I am good. I'm very happy. I'm sad that the season's got to come to an end, but I couldn't think of a better ending with a game like this with the Buckeyes versus the Irish from Atlanta this upcoming Monday, 7:30 Eastern time as well, which I love. Underrated part of this national championship. It doesn't start at 9. It starts at 7:30, which is just terrific for me. One thing I want to mention before we get into the actual subject is that both of these team seasons before this moment were defined by a loss. Obviously, Ohio State's loss to Michigan in the last week of the regular season, a huge stain on the resume. Everyone counted them out. And then Notre Dame as well, week two, hosting Northern Illinois. They lose, just wild. I was one of the ones that just put them in the corner, put them away, and look where Marcus Freeman has brought them. 12 straight wins, I believe, and just a berth in the national championship. Incredibly impressive playoff run, obviously beating Indiana, then Georgia, and then Penn State with an absolute classic of a game there. Two teams took similar paths, but ended up both meeting at the national championship. Should be exciting, should be a great game.
Yeah,
I'm really happy.
I was going to ask you, and then you got into it. Who expected this at the beginning of the season? Week zero, did anybody say, okay, it's going to be Ohio State, Notre Dame? I know one guy did. WWE superstar Sheamus took Notre Dame to win the national championship way back then, week zero, when they were doing the Dublin game. Incredible. But yeah, like you said, two losses to define a season and completely just disregarded once the playoffs started. I was with you too. When NIU beat Notre Dame at home, I was sitting here, I was like, okay, that's it. They're done. Another loss and they're done. And I was looking at it, especially early, like, oh, they got to play USC. They got to play, Georgia Tech. They got to play this. They got to play that. And I was like, I don't see a path. They got to play a good Louisville team, but they willed their way. Consistency is key in college football, and they were able to, consistently dominate in games, and here they are now. So, without further ado, let's break it down. For Ohio State, looking at it, what is your main key for them that they need to execute to be able to beat Notre Dame on Monday?
So the frame that we kind of wanted to scope this question with is like, what if Ohio State does this, they'll win the game. So in my opinion, it's get after Riley Leonard. Riley Leonard, to me, while he did do better with his arm against Penn State, still has not proven to me when he's under pressure, can he make clutch throws? That is something that Ohio State obviously has put their hat on, is getting after the quarterback. Obviously, Jack Sawyer has had such a great playoff for the Buckeyes, as has the entirety of the defensive line. They have 16 sacks in the CFP, four against Texas, 12 in their first two games, and just complete domination. And if they're able to do that against Notre Dame, I don't know if Notre Dame has the firepower to be able to match up with Ohio State offensively. So that's really going to be the key. Can they get to Riley Leonard and prevent him from using his legs? Because if he's able to spread out the defense, open it up, and then be able to run, that is going to be a game changer for the Irish offense. So can Ryan Day and that defensive line get after Riley Leonard? That's going to be the key for me.
Yeah, that's a great take. I think defensively, they've been unstoppable this postseason. Obviously, the key game that we've been able to highlight that was the Rose Bowl against Oregon in the quarterfinals. Jack Sawyer and that D line is just they've been completely dominant. I'm going in a different direction. I think that the defense, they don't necessarily have to play an elite game to be able to have a good game. I think if they just play consistent like they have in the playoffs, they'll be able to get the job done. But for me, I'm looking at Chip Kelly to make a slight adjustment in his offense. And to me, I want to see Ohio State speed the game up. If you look at it, in Notre Dame's path in the playoffs so far. A lot of these offenses, they take their time. They have a good mesh of the run game, of the pass game. They like to set up. They'll take their shots. Allow the play to develop while they're passing. So Notre Dame's defense is kind of adjusted to that, but they've struggled once teams started to go at a faster tempo. And I want you to look back at Oregon under Chip Kelly and how high tempo they used to play. They were unstoppable. They used to have a stopwatch back in 2010 when Chip Kelly was their head coach, every single play to show how fast Oregon would get set up and get the next play snap from when the ball was down. Obviously, I don't think it's realistic for them to go that fast, but I want to see this offense speed it up. Have a lot of quick reads, quick outs. Obviously, you can still have Jeremiah Smith, who is the most dominant receiver right now in college football. Have him be a focus in this offense, but I want to see the ball move fast on this Notre Dame defense. Don't let them get set up and get adjusted where they can have a big play, get a sack, and okay, now it's 3rd and 15. You're playing 3rd and long, and they're just dropping back, and they're going to kill you that way. So to me, make the game fast, and that's how Notre Dame will start to struggle, especially defensively. Like I said, if Ohio State's defense shows up like they have been, they'll have a field day. But if they can play quick, I think they'll win this game.
Wow, I mean, I agree with you 100%. I didn't really realize that, but now that I'm thinking about it, Indiana was something slower tempo. Georgia, slower tempo as well, pro style offense. And then with Penn State, it's usually pretty fast, but you're right. Like the mix of the run and the pass naturally slows it down. And Ohio State has the talent to be able to run a similar offense to what you said with Chip Kelly at Oregon. It meshes well. So I'm going to go right ahead. It meshes well into my key for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, and that is to prevent what you said that Ohio State should do. Dominate the time of possession. That is the key. Take the air out of the ball. They won and they beat Georgia. Riley Leonard had 90 passing yards in that game. If they're able to do something similar to that performance and where the defense can make a couple of stops, get a couple turnovers, they'll be so happy with that. Marcus Freeman will be really happy with that. So for me, Jeremiah Love, knee brace, all clunky, didn't matter. Still hurdled the guy, said he wasn't going to do it before the game. He still did it. You got Price as well. And then Riley Leonard with his legs. That is going to be the key. Can they drain the clock? Because Ohio State obviously has the talent. They're the most talented offense, I would say, in the country. Keeping them on the sideline might be the best defense for Notre Dame. So I think if they're able to do that, if they're able to win the time of possession, especially in the second half, kind of grind them down with Jeremiah Love, that opens up the path to a national championship for Marcus Freeman and the Irish. And it should be interesting to see how they attack it. Will they go fast or will they kind of heed my words and go slower?
Yeah, we have a similar key to win. Obviously, time of possession, I completely agree. That is going to be the most important thing for Notre Dame to find a way to win. The way I'm taking it, they need to win the physical battle. They need to out physical Ohio State from the jump. And like I said, we've been talking about it, how dominant the D line's been, how good, honestly, the secondary's been as well. And honestly, the run blocking, the pass blocking has been perfect for Ohio State so far in the playoffs. So Notre Dame need to play physical. It was a similar kind of key against Penn State because, we always talk about the Big Ten and how physical the play is. So they need to beat them at their own game. You know that they're going to be honestly physically outmatched, but that has to be forgotten. You have to go out, you have to punch someone in the mouth every single rep from receivers like Jaden Greathouse. Honestly, like you said, Jeremiah Love, if he's pass blocking, he needs to get in and get physical on the D ends. The offensive line, they've been riddled with injuries. Doesn't matter. Next man up. You have to win in the trenches and you have to win in the physical battle because if you're not out physicaling that D line, Riley Leonard's going to have no time, no space, no gaps to run through. Same with Jeremiah Love. You're not going to have time to pass it to a guy who is a great one-on-one receiver in Jaden Greathouse, And honestly, you can't really rely on just taking field goals with, Jeter every single drive. You have to score. And if they want to score on Ohio State, they have to out physical them. I mean, like I said, it could also be getting into the pass game because Jaden Greathouse proved against Penn State. He was phenomenal. He was my favorite player on the field in the semifinals. He proved that he can go one-on-one with any DB and beat him. But at the same time, he's not going to be able to have the time to get open if they're not winning the physical battle. So while time of possession, I think is drastically important as well. If they don't dominate on the lines, they're going to lose this game. So they need to dominate physically in order to beat Ohio State.
And that's kind of one of the fun things about this game is that both programs are known for that. Like both are O-line NFL factories, and now we get to see them in a battle where Ohio State probably their entire D-line is going to the NFL, and Notre Dame probably their entire O-line is going to the NFL. But like you said, with injuries, who's going to step up? What no-name guy is going to step into a starting position and lock it down? We've seen it before. Will we be able to see it again for Notre Dame in this game? One question to you. Do you think that Marcus Freeman and Al Golden for the Notre Dame saw what Texas did to Jeremiah Smith? And when we should do that as well, kind of follow the safety with the corner over top? Or do you think because he didn't get many targets and Ibuka and Tate had such good games that they'll just kind of back away from Jeremiah? How do you think they approach that?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. It's difficult because we have to understand Texas is one of the best defenses in the country. So was that a fault of it was just a great scheme, or that they were just matchup wise, just better than Oregon was? Because Oregon's secondary, while it was good, it's not that great. And obviously, playing a single high safety on him was never smart. And that's why they got killed in that Rose Bowl game. But I don't know. I don't know if you copy them, because are we going to see equal matchups from Notre Dame's defense that we saw with Texas's? I think they could, but at the same time, my key to the game is to kind of change that offense at Ohio State. So who's to say that Ohio State doesn't kind of change up their scheme and maybe not go to Jeremiah Smith as much? So I think they'll take a look at it. They might have packages where they do that and packages where it's single man-to-man coverage, just to kind of test the waters, test the temperature of the water to see where they're at. But I mean, we know that you have to shut down Jeremiah Smith in that offense if you want to be successful. Although if you stop him, you got seven other guys that are next man up that'll kill you. So it's going to be interesting to see. But I think, yeah, I think to start they might, have the safety over top with the corner kind of as that protection. But I think if the game opens up and they like the matchups, they might go just a single man-to-man coverage on him.
It also is worth noting that Texas probably has the best safety room in the entire country with Michael Taff, Andrew Makuba, Jade Barron. Like these are all guys that are freaks of nature. Now that's not to say that Notre Dame doesn't have some freaks of their own, but I doubt they got three safeties that are each kind of the top of the class kind of guys. For just athleticism and safety play in general. So it will be interesting. I agree with you. I don't think that it necessarily changes. And I think that if Ohio State starts spreading the ball out, going faster, they're not going to have a choice. They're going to have to win on islands. I really expect them to do that, or Ohio State's just going to bowl over them because it's hard to have enough people in the box to stop the run game that they have with Henderson and Judkins, which has been not flashy, but consistent. Henderson actually had his biggest play of the CFP on a screen pass, but it's not worth to say that they have two amazing running backs. So to be able to keep six in the box and have people on islands, one high safety or two, is going to be interesting and should be an absolutely important matchup for this game. So it's going to be fun. It's
Yeah,
going to be fun.
definitely. I'm really fired up for it. Those matchups are going to be so fun to watch. Before we get into our winning predictions of who we think the national championship is, or the national champion is, I wanted to ask you, out of the two head coaches, I mean, Marcus Freeman's younger and earlier in his kind of stint with Notre Dame, but both coaches have kind of had the allegations that they can't get it done in big games. Obviously, they've both won enough big games to get to the Natty this year, but looking at it between Ryan Day and Marcus Freeman, who do you think is better off by winning this national championship? Who do you think needs it more?
So this is a really hard question. Now, simply put, like at face value, you go Ryan Day, right? But if Marcus Freeman wins this national championship, first of all, he'd be the first black coach to win a national championship at the FBS level, which is amazing. But second of all, the program that they're going to be able to build if they win this natty, like think about the money that they're getting. First of all, they got 14 for winning each game, and then they got 20 for making the natty, and I'm sure they'll get like 30 plus if they win the natty, but they don't have to split it with the conference. Like Ohio State's getting 1.1 mil for making the national championship because they're in the Big Ten. So if they dump even half of that into the NIL, we're looking at the most expensive roster in college football history. No recruit is untouchable to them. And I think Marcus Freeman is the guy to do it, to be completely honest. So I'm going to go with Marcus Freeman. I think Ryan Day, we were like, oh, fire him. After this run, you can't fire him. He's going to get another year. They're going to be loaded just as this year, with Jeremiah Smith coming into his sophomore year as well. And I'm sure we'll find through the woodworkings some great running backs, some great D line. Even though half the team's going to the draft. But for Marcus Freeman, he's got a chance to stamp Notre Dame's face on what I believe to be like this decade. For the rest of this decade, they will be a premier program, possibly in that top four range, if he's able to win this one. And it would just be huge. So I'm going to go with Marcus Freeman, but I can definitely see how someone would say Ryan Day. What do you think?
I'm in agreement with you. I'm going with Marcus Freeman, and I agree. I think this would equally be as important for Ryan Day because he's been in the program for a while. It's always been that question. He's 1-4 all time against Michigan. They haven't won a natty under him. There's a lot of pressure for him to succeed, so it would be great for him and to be able to stay at the top of as a program with Ohio State winning this natty would be great. But I look at Marcus Freeman. This is a guy that we don't know what his peak of a coach looks like down the line. He's only 38 years old. Ryan Day, I think this is the peak. This is as high as he can go. I don't see him having any chances at the NFL or any other top, building another top program. Ryan Day is at his peak at Ohio State, no matter how long he stays for the future. So when I look at Marcus Freeman, if he can win a national championship here when he's 38, he's still young getting that stature at that young, there's going to be guys at the NFL. And depending what happens with Notre Dame, they're a prestigious program, but are they always the most competitive? No. So I think that would be great. And like I said, I agree that this could staple them as potentially being one of the most dominant programs down the next decade under him. But I could definitely see him getting looks for the NFL. And I think the sky is the limit for Marcus Freeman. I really think he's a phenomenal coach. He's one of my favorite coaches outside of obviously Oregon, being my team. But I really think that a national championship here would skyrocket him. He's going to be able to get insanely good recruits. He's going to be able to build the team he wants. Like you said, the money that he doesn't have to split with the conference is going to help with their NIL funding and stadium everything. It's going to help the school. But I see that Marcus Freeman stock going all the way up, and a win here would make it way higher than I already have him. I would love to see him one day coaching in the NFL. I think he's got that attitude. He's got that mindset. Clearly, he's a good enough coach. He gets the players behind him. When they internally hired him after, they moved on, when he stepped up, he instantly was adored by the players. So I think he's got the juice to be a head coach. I think it'd be great for him. So like I said, I agree. I think it's Marcus Freeman.
The most painful part about all of this is that I got the guy that he replaced, and that made Notre Dame miserable, apparently. I hope he's not doing it at LSU. Wishy-washy results from him, but yeah, you're right. Marcus Freeman is definitely a stud. And if there was one guy I was gonna peg as like jumping in that upper echelon, I honestly think Dan Lanning's already there. So I'm gonna go Dan Lanning, Kirby Smart, and the ghost of Nick Saban as the top of college football right now. I think Marcus Freeman within the next 2 years can make himself like that level, of that Kirby Smart level, to where when you think of college football, you think of him as a coach. But I did want to ask if he were to get offered the Bears job and they win or lose, just either. Do you think he would leave this year? Do you think there's any shot of that?
No.
Like I know we're completely speculating, but still,
I don't think he would because I don't know if I necessarily like the Bears. I don't think it would be. I mean, you can make the argument, look at the roster, the talent on paper. Shane Waldron did a horrible job, at
yeah.
the Bears, but I don't know if Marcus Freeman would want to yet. I'd say, I see him potentially if he were to go to the NFL in the next 4 to 5 years. I think he's going to continue to kind of, develop his resume because that's going to be a big risk. He's still young. Like I said, he's 38, you know, that's young for coaching. So, people are so reckless. They make mistakes, and you don't want to jump ship when you have something good.
Yeah.
And then if you become a failure, let's say they struggle again, the Bears are at the bottom and they go, "Oh, we don't want him. We're going to fire him." Then you lose the Notre Dame job. You're either hoping to get a coordinator position or another head coaching position in the NFL. And then if you have to go back to college, you know, you're rebuilding a program. So like I said, I think I could see it in the next 4 to 5 years, continue to learn, continue to grow as a coach, continue to have a dominant program, get those results, and then if the time is right and the position is right, make that jump then.
I mean, good point. Well said. I don't think I could add much else to that. And I agree with you. I don't think this is the right fit. But I could see it like it. I hate to say it depends on the money. But he played at Ohio State, which is something interesting that adds to kind of the storylines of this. So it's not like it's his program. So I think that obviously I agree with what we said. He's got a chance to become a legend, become I don't want to say like Newt Rockney, that kind of legend at Notre Dame, but something similar. He's got the chance to do it. I'm not saying he's going to, but he's got the chance to do it. And I do wonder like if that extra zero that an NFL team could offer him would get the deal done. But I hope he stays where he is. I think it's good for college football to have Notre Dame good at football. And I honestly think that Notre Dame not being in a conference and being this good and being able to make it to the national championship, especially if they were to get close next year, might usher a new era of college football where conferences do not exist. I think we're getting close to that, especially when teams are looking and Notre Dame got 14 times the money that they got, which is just ridiculous. But that's down the line. Can't really say much else about that. That's for the years coming. So let's get into it. Our last game prediction of the year. Andrew, who you got winning and what score do you got? There's just so many options here.
Yeah, this was a very difficult decision. I know you and I were talking before we started recording. We were both back and forth. I
Yeah.
wasn't sure if I had one yet, but looking at it, I have to take Ohio State. I think Notre Dame has been incredible, and like I said, they're battle proven. That was my kind of key thing comparing them to Penn State is they've won more tough battles in the playoffs so far. But when you look, I would say this is a relatively even, path for both. You look at Ohio State, they beat Tennessee, they beat Oregon, then they beat Texas. That is an incredible 3 game stretch to get to the national championship. Then you look at Notre Dame, Indiana, then then they beat Georgia, and then obviously Penn State in the semis. So both teams have gone down a great path, but ultimately, with the injuries to the offensive line that they've sustained down this stretch of the playoffs, I don't see them winning the physical battle, which was my key for them to win. I think Ohio State is just that much more physical to them. Look at how good Abdul Carter did at half health while being held like half of the game. He
Yeah.
was still a force to be reckoned with. Um, I could see a little bit of a drop off of dominance from Ohio State, similar to the Texas game. I think they won't blow them out like they did against Oregon, but I'm having them win by 17. I have Ohio State winning 31-14. I think it'll be a competitive
Uh,
game down into the fourth quarter. The physicality will just wear out Notre Dame. It'll get sloppy towards the end, and yeah, I'm taking the Ohio State to win the national championship 31-14. What about
wow,
you?
I'm surprised. I thought it was going to be closer, but I mean, logically it makes sense. I feel like we got Georgia TCU here. Like that's what it feels like. It feels so good to be able to like pick Notre Dame, but then you got Ohio State. Like I would even argue they didn't play that great and they still housed Texas. So I don't know, but everyone loves the underdog. I'm going with the Irish. I think this is Rocky for Ivan Drago, the Ohio State Buckeyes versus Rocky, obviously, in Notre Dame. And, this Notre Dame program hasn't won a national championship since 1988. To be honest, the reason why I'm picking them is because they feel like the Giants Super Bowl teams. Like they had no right to be there. Like their offense is clunky. It's not smooth. Like there's no one player that you're going, oh, this guy's a stud first round pick, but they get the job done and there's no mistakes special teams wise and defensively. I think Marcus Freeman gets them right. He gets the W. I'm going to take Notre Dame 24, Ohio State 23. And this is just an absolute classic of a game. But like I said, I could also see Ohio State blowing them out. I really could and getting boat raced. But I'm going to have to go with the Irish. I love just the grit of this team, and that's why I'm picking them. I'm not gonna be like, oh, the stats back me up here. They don't, but I'm gonna go with the Irish.
I love it. I would love a dog fight. If it
Yeah.
comes down to like the final kick of a game for the Natty, I would love it. I'm impartial. I'm just looking forward to a good game. Obviously, I picked Ohio State. You picked Notre Dame. I'm not going to be upset no matter who wins. I'm just looking forward to a great game of football. So, it's going to be fun. I've been so happy that we've been able to cover this on both YouTube and TikTok throughout the duration of the season. Feels like it was just 2 weeks ago that week zero started with that crazy Georgia Tech upset over Florida State. But here we are now, a lot of moving pieces for teams, a lot of crazy results. This was a fun year, a year that really felt like 2007. A lot of upsets, lots of crazy, twists and turns. But we're finally at the culmination. Another great season under the books. We can only hope that the path that we're down with the route of college football, the playoffs, NIL, all those things, it doesn't destroy the sport that we love and that we grew up with, and that we love to cover. So, uh, you know, thank you for sticking with us this season. Obviously, we're gonna cover the draft. We got a lot of fun things planned for the off season while we're waiting for the next season to start up. Thank you so much for your support. Obviously, on TikTok, we're unsure. It looks like TikTok's going to be banned. We're going to come up with a plan once that officially happens, whether it be a website that we post on, whether it be Instagram or Twitter accounts as well. But we'll keep everybody in the loop. So thank you so much for our support on TikTok, obviously YouTube as well. Thank you for those who watch our videos, who subscribe, who leave comments and likes. We truly appreciate you. If you're listening on Spotify, we love you as well. But yeah, this has been such a fun season. I'm happy that we've been on this wild journey together, both me and Tyler and the fans that we have so far. Stay with us because it's going to keep getting better. We're going to have fun in the off season, and we'll get y'all ready for the next great season of college football. So this has been another episode, the final episode of this college football season from us at Sideline Signal, Andrew and Tyler. We appreciate the ride. I'll let you say some final words before we sign off too.
Hey, thank you everyone for listening on all platforms. It's been a blast so far this season, but like Andrew said, this is just the beginning. I cannot wait for our stuff on the NFL draft, prospects, former games, everything. Super excited to continue doing this and bringing this to you guys. Thank you for all your support. Let's have a great natty and then let's have a great off season as well as we're heading into the 2025 season.
Exactly. And so for the final time this season, I'm Andrew from Sideline Signal, as always, joined by Tyler. Thank you all for the support this season. It's been great. And we'll catch you in a few weeks with some off-season videos, but let's enjoy this national championship and everyone, enjoy the off-season while you can. But thank you all.